So if you go thinking now in primary data, so primary information, there's 3 different types of research you can be carrying out. So qualitative, mixed methods, and quantitative. Mixed methods is the easiest one to understand, is when you mix qual and quant. You're using both. Qualitative research is when you do methods. Usually qualitative research is when you're trying to find about people's opinions, people's feelings, how they feel about something, and you want to know it a bit more in detail. Of course, I can ask you, how do you rate the usefulness of the library from 1 to 5? And that will just tell me a number. But if I want to understand why, if the number is like 2, meaning that you rate it quite low, why is that? Like, I believe me, Gordon will want to know if people are all saying 2s, why is that? So to do that, a quantitative method will not give you that much. It will just give you a number. So you need to understand better. You need to understand people's experience. Why wouldn't they find the library useful? You need to know more. And to do that, I put here 3 methods, but there's 2 that you're very likely to use in your research, and they could be something that you might think of. One of them is interviews. Interviews, very common method, and is of course when you're trying to, in this case, the example I'm giving is when I'm trying to understand why do you find the library useful or you don't find it useful, what's your lived experience of the library, how do you use it for, everything like that. Interviews, and again, what you need to remember of this is, when you're writing a research proposal, you need to talk about all of this. So you would be, imagine you're doing an interview, so you'd be using a qualitative method, and you'll be using an interview, and then you need to explain what type of interview are you using. There's 3 types defined in the literature: unstructured, semi-structured, or structured. Unstructured is if, again with my example, I just have written that I want to know what are people's opinions of the library, but I have no research questions, no questions pre-prepared. I just have an objective, and it's more of a conversation. And that's what we would call an unstructured interview. It can be used, not that common, it's a much more qualitative method, it's much more advanced in that sense. Semi-structured is the most common method. Is that you have like a set of questions, 3-4 questions, that you always ask to everyone you interview, but beyond that, if an answer to a question would raise something, oh, that's interesting, can you tell me more? You do what's called probing. So you have like those 3-4 questions, but then you do a bit more probing and you try to uncover more. That's semi-structured. Structured interviews are usually used for with large studies, with a lot of people doing interviews, and because they want to compare everything. Like a structured interview, you have 4 questions, you have a script, and you do not deviate from that. That's it, okay? So you imagine, in that case, I would write like 3 or 4 questions in terms of what I think would be important to know about the library, and even if I was interested in knowing more, I wouldn't ask more, because it's a structured interview, and you want to be able to compare. In our case, actually, we talk about that we're going to do probably semi-structured interviews, but it's actually something we're going to discuss, because I'll probably be doing some interviews, Gordon might be doing another interview in another site, and we will want to compare. So we'll probably only be able to compare the set questions that we define. The probing and the things like that makes it a bit more difficult, because it will be a different interview. Okay, so those are interviews. Any questions about interviews? No? That's a qualitative method, it's called an interview, that's what it is.